Good afternoon, Lynette Oxley here for Tax Shack Tackle TV. We are back in Joburg this afternoon. Welcome, Paul. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks, Lynette. Okay, two things, viewers. Thanks very much for tuning in. We have a Rottweiler lying at our feet who's trying to squeak a toy that he broke the squeak in a long time ago, so he's quite frustrated. In the second place, I have to mention last week's recording. It was very difficult.
It was.
Let me tell you why. We were supposed to be doing the recording at CHS Guns in Somerset West, but there was an unavoidable human drama that at CHS, and we couldn't do the recording there. So we thought, well, let's push on from Somerset West a little further and go and give you guys at least some decent scenery behind the talking heads. So we went through to Hermanus. Cell phone signal doesn't live in Hermanus.
There was nothing.
We were driving around trying to get better than GPRS signal so that we could actually broadcast. We couldn't. Eventually we had to go and squat at the Arabella at Bot River, where we had a fantastic backdrop. Unfortunately, the backdrop was so bright that the camera couldn't pick up our faces much. So that was a bit of a catalogue of disasters. We apologize profusely.
We didn't have time to fix anything because it was a last minute
Absolutely. It was like rush there, get out of the car, rush into the place, set up, and yeah, anyway. So I'm sorry for last week. Sorry if you didn't hear any strange noises coming from my feet. It's my Rottweiler.
In any case, two topics today. First one is to the court cases around the gun laws at this stage.
So firearms lawyer Martin had some successes in the North Gauteng High Court last week and this week, relating specifically to security companies and the time periods. The
time periods in connection with what?
Time periods for competencies and for licensing. This has been an ongoing issue. The police continually make time limits and then break their own time limits that they've set.
Is that in connection with the 90 days?
The 90 days becomes 120 days. The 120 days now is becoming 160 days, and they can't even keep to those. It's a sign of the stress in the system, the administrative incapacity of the SAPS as an administrating body, which all goes to our point that we've been trying to bring home. We have to remove the administration of the Act from the clutches of the SAPS. They've never been capable of doing it, never. They've always lied to Parliament and to the courts, etc., about their capacity and being able to do it. They can't do it. It's just an impossibility. That relates to a second topic that I wanted to talk about today. Before I refer to another court case, which was yesterday and this morning, which was a GOSA member, I want to speak about the
Police Portfolio Committee?
The Police Portfolio Committee, and the way that they have started to disregard, maybe not disregard is not the right word, but treat with suspicion anything that is said to them by SAPS. The problem is SAPS continually lies to everybody. They continually lie to us as the public. They continually lie to Parliament. And they've been caught out now by Parliament lying to them. So the Portfolio Committee is becoming an increasingly difficult place for the SAPS to operate in, which is great. It's
good for gun owners.
It's good for gun owners. Bad for the police, good for gun owners. The end of the day, I'm afraid, comes back to the third demand that we made to Parliament last week. We have to claw the administration of the Act away from SAPS. They are the worst administrators possible. There's nothing in the empowering legislation that grants SAPS the powers to create an administration. So although the empowering legislation, the Firearms Control Act in this case, gives SAPS the power to run a registry. It doesn't give them the power to run the administration of the licensing that's connected to that registry.
And where the mess is sitting at this stage of the CFR.
Where the mess sits, where everything breaks down, because sooner or later everything ends up being crunched up, bent, spindled, and mutilated by the administration of the firearms, the misadministration, indeed. So we are trying very strongly to, and they're helping us make the point. I mean, every time the SAPs appear in front of the portfolio committee, it's excuses about this and sorry, we don't have capacity and this and that and the other. So if you don't have the capacity, stop taking more onto yourself. Stop asking for a more complicated process, which is what the bill that they're trying to get through would lead to. It would lead to more work for them, the people that can't do the work that they currently have.
And we know the current database that they have on the firearms are an absolute mess.
Yeah, just as a little aside, as many of you may know, or some of you don't know, or many of you may not know, Lynette and I also run a firearm dealership. We had our DFO's inspection that had been punted down the road for weeks and months, because every time the DFO is supposed to pitch up, he phones or he doesn't phone beforehand and excuses himself, or just says he can't make it, he'll come tomorrow or next week or next month. Anyway, he eventually arrived here on yesterday morning and on Wednesday morning, and spent the entire day here with a succession of colonels and captains and warrant officers wandering in and out, and got through the inspection. However, he arrived as per normal with a couple of A4 pages with firearms listed on them, because that's what the system says is on our stock. And as we saw there's still firearms on that stock list which were licensed or sold or transferred to other dealers many years ago. There was a huge amount of firearms we have in stock, legitimately in stock, which are missing on the system. 350s that we've processed through the new electronic system, which shouldn't have any problems, but weren't on the police's list. So the database is a disaster.
Okay, so tell me, are we going to get back? Are you done with the police portfolio committee?
The chair of the committee, Tina Jumot-Peterson, was very kindly sent to me last week an explanation of exactly where the bill sits at the moment, and that has been posted on the GOSA Facebook page. And if anybody wants it, we'll repost it to them. Just to explain where it is in the process. It's now. It seems that the bill was like a preprint, a pre-publication before the proper draft bill is presented. So that went out to us. We all commented on it. Huge amount of comments. I believe the DA had 103,000 comments, by the way. Much larger than what anybody expected, I think. Oh, the Rottweiler.
Sorry.
Sorry, the Rottweiler just bumped the tripod for the camera. So anyway, so there was a huge amount of response. The police now have to deal with the police ministry has to deal with that before they then draft an amended bill, which the minister will then present to the National Assembly. The National Assembly will then vote on it. It will then go, if they're not happy with it, it'll go back to the police ministry for further work. Only then, at the end of that process, will it be handed over to the police portfolio committee, to Tina Jumot-Peterson and her people, who will then be in charge of the public participation portion of the review of the bill before it becomes an act. So there's still, I don't know, I think years of work to do on this. And we believe that the PPC, the Police Portfolio Committee, all they can do is make recommendations to Parliament. But they make very strong recommendations to Parliament. It has a lot of force behind it. And we think we think that they are seeing things clearly at the moment. after they came in and they initially indicated that they were willing to listen to us, and then the minister clamped down on their on their ability to interact with us, and I think the minister's star is waning. I don't think he has the political pull that he used to have. And I think that the portfolio committee has taken note of the volume of objection to the plans of the police ministry, and I can only hope that helps to sway the day.
Can I maybe just interrupt? The Dear South Africa details, have that been made available to us yet?
Okay, so Dear South Africa hasn't yet given us the summary of they'll give it to us first, because we were part of the process. They'll give it to us first, but they haven't yet finished the summary of their the campaign.
And huge amount of
there was some confusing things, and you know, this is the problem with any broad campaign. People understand things differently, so a lot of people misunderstood when Dear South Africa posed the question, "Are you in favour of this?" Meaning, are you in favour of the bill? But they meant, well, anyway, and people said, yes, we're in favour of it, where the people actually meant they're in favour of the public participation campaign on the bill. Yeah. So now they have to work some statistical magic and figure out how many people were actually, those people that came up as for the bill were actually not for the bill. Anyway, they have to tailor their figures accordingly. So I think that's where that sits at the moment.
Okay, shall we get back to the court cases then?
All right. So Martin had a couple of cases in front of the court dealing specifically with time periods. Because it's unreasonable, especially in the circumstances we're sitting in at the moment with this nascent insurrection. Security companies have a greater than ever need for firearms and for armed officers, etc., etc.
And they're not getting a year.
And they're not getting their licenses. They're not getting the competencies for the officers. So where the police are saying we can't help you, the security companies are saying, but we're not allowed to help you because we haven't yet got the paperwork out of the police. So another reason why the police should not be in charge of the administration of the act.
So what was the outcomes of Martin's things?
So the judge ruled in Martin's favour in both of those cases, and enforced compliance, enforced the CFR to issue the paperwork within time.
For a specific company?
Yeah, for two companies.
Okay.
Within the time frame that Martin had requested. So that's a great victory. For those guys, unfortunately, it doesn't help for anybody else. But it's still
set a precedent.
It builds the body of evidence.
Okay.
And every time it comes in front of a judge, the judge throws his hands in the air and says, "My God, how incompetent are these people?" And that helps for the next guy that comes in front of that judge, because the next guy's, "Oh God, here we go again." You can imagine this stuff keeps coming in front of you. It must be frustrating to the max. Anyway, so that's Martin's cases. He's been successful in both of those. We had, on behalf of one of our members, the GOSA members, we had, and this is something that's been knocking on the door for a while. The police have been refusing licenses for specifically one of the largest sports shooting associations in the country, SAPSA, the South African Practical Shooting Association, on the basis that they were under the mistaken impression that the chairman of the organization had to sign the endorsements. Where the Act, Section 16.2 of the Act, actually says the chairman or somebody authorized by him.
Because I think it is the administrator actually
signed. So Sabella, the administrator for SAPSA, has always signed all of the endorsements. And she's got the proper authorities, as required by the Act. But CFR has cocked this up for years and years and years, has been telling people that they can't consider Sabella's signature because she's not authorized, or it has to be the chairman, but in actual fact it doesn't. So our client, our member initially got rejected by CFR. He took it on appeal to the appeals board, and oh Lord, the appeals board, the Firearms Appeals Board. The chair of the Firearms Appeals Board seems to have studied in the same school of law as the public protector. She's absolutely clueless. I've seen court documents where she's put in affidavits, and she's claimed that the Firearms Appeal Board doesn't have the power to review or vary decisions by the registrar.
So what are the
Sweetheart,
purpose then?
that's your exact job description.
Exactly.
Your exact reason for being is to review and set aside or confirm decisions of the registrar. You can't, so she completely misunderstands her position in life. Who knows? So she then, when the evidence was presented to her, she again says, no, we have no power to vary, etc., and the correct letters of authority weren't presented to the CFR in the first place, and it must be the chairman, etc. So this whole thing went to court. The judge yesterday made short work of that, even though he's reserved judgment because he wants to compose a proper written judgment. So he didn't rule from the bench, unfortunately, or fortunately, perhaps, because we will come out of this with a proper precedent on this whole issue of SAPSA. So that will put that to bed, and any other potential organisation in the future. So we've come out of that with costs, which is great, because that's an indication of the strength of our argument, and an indication of the strength of the court's sanction against the SAPS and against the appeals board.
Yeah.
So we got our costs on it, well, our client got his costs on it, which helps GOSA too, because GOSA sponsors a lot of the costs. So we get those costs back. That's all happy. We're going to end up with a proper written order out of this, and the judge has reviewed and set aside the appeal, the initial decision by the registrar. He's appealed and set aside the decision by the appeals board, and he's returned the case for review to the CFR to decide afresh instead of ruling from the bench, and that's the one thing that we're not so happy with. But it will go properly this time. Then the state came back and said, oh, but they want another 90 days now. So the judge said to them, but you can't. You've had this thing for God knows how long already.
How long has this been going
All
on
you
for
need
them?
to do, you don't have to review all the documents are in place. All you have to do is revisit your decision. That's all you have to do. So we've suggested that I think that 20 court days or a month would be an appropriate time. Because every time any state department at the moment, anytime you try and put pressure on them, they throw their hands in the air and they say, but COVID, but COVID, but COVID. Like COVID prevents them from doing any work at all. Yeah. So you've got to be sensitive to this, because if you're not, the judges take a dim view of it. Remember, the judges also get paid by the same people that pay the police. I'm not saying anything, but it is. So those were the Martin's victories, and our victory are very good. They'll help to build that body of evidence against the maladministration of the Act by the South African Police Service, which helps us in our quest to have the administration of the Act removed from these Muppets and given to somebody who can do it, who can do the admin. So we're quite happy with that. I think that will go a long way for other members and other people in the general broad public in future.
Absolutely. Anything else, Paul, that you would like to mention?
I think I've talked everybody's ears off long enough now. I think after Ricky Mann's epic saga yesterday, I think people are going to watch that over the weekend or something.
It was absolutely awesome. And
but it's an awesome piece of work there. Congratulations
we will follow
on
up,
that.
yeah, we will follow up on certain of the individual parts of of his paper, and also some expansions. So that will follow in the next couple of weeks as well.
Fantastic.
Was there anything, Hannes, that's from any questions?
Okay, so what powers does the portfolio committee have over SAPS? Apart from the power to call them to account and have them twist in the wind, it doesn't have any statutory powers over them. It doesn't have power to say to them, you will fix this. It merely has the power to recommend to Parliament that Parliament should censure them, or but it can also call them to account all the time, and it does. The National Commissioner spends half his life in front of the portfolio committee making excuses for why his people didn't do the work.
But ultimately, it is a political thing. I have seen that in the past, that the portfolio committee wanted to do something, and the powers that be didn't want them to do it.
Correct.
And they had to toe the party line. Am I correct or not?
Correct. Absolutely correct. It's you would wish that they were an ombudsman, or some kind of a statutory board that could exercise control over the police. Unfortunately, they're not.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, great. Thank you very much for viewing, or for the viewers looking at the show today. And have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, same time. Cheers.